This is an Ask Brothers production. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Ask Brothers Rant. Download all our content on SoundCloud, iTunes and Spotify. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Enjoy!
Just because I'm a black man, Max, doesn't mean that I don't indulge in some weird shit. And skiing is one of them. Ice skating is one of them, right? Because you wouldn't expect me on the ice, would you?
I would not expect you. I would not expect you on the ice. In fact, Manny, I didn't expect anyone on the ice to the point where after our during our pre-podcast conversation, I made the proclamation that I don't think that there are that many black skiers. And man, there's fucking skiers from Kenya. There's skiers from Ghana. I mean, where the fuck did these guys get skis from? Because I don't think there's snow in fucking Kenya and Ghana.
There's bobsleighers from Jamaica.
Did you know they have a bobsled team?
Oh my god! Yeah. See, that's because you're in your own little bubble when you're thinking about the stereotype too much. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean we don't do it. Trust me, we get everywhere, but we're not necessarily good at it. But that doesn't mean we don't do it.
It's like black people apparently not eating pussy. Stereotype.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Well, I'll tell you this, we've caught up. We've come out of the dark ages, man. We've caught up. You know what I mean? We're here now. All right, we're here.
Anyway, you've got bobsledders. You've got a lot of speed skaters, which makes a lot of sense that you would have speed skaters like fast twitch fiber and all that shit.
Oh, fuck you. Well, listen, I mean, why not? Why shouldn't we diversify this shit? I mean, we can't just be known for the same things like, you know, NBA players, NFL players, you know what I mean, sprinters. You got to diversify these things, you know what I mean? So, hey, we're everywhere, man. And more power to them. More power to them. See, that might make me want to tune into the Winter Olympics because I usually don't because it's boring as hell. So, because we just don't do cold, okay? We don't like cold. We like hot temperatures, tropical weather and things like that. That's what we used to. So cold is not exactly in our makeup. I'll tell you that now. I'm pretty sure you've got black people in Canada and in cold places. They don't like cold either, right? They can deal with it, but I can guarantee they don't like it. You know, so that's why you wouldn't expect us on ice or in water or in gymnastics. But we're there.
What about roller skating?
Ooh, I don't know about that. But maybe. I mean, my brother roller skates. He's got a pair, and he goes to this something called the roller disco, and it just played like really good music.
Is your brother still in the 80s?
No, that's what they call it.
I used to love it. I did when I was a kid. But
that's what they call it. So they play really good music and stuff, and they just roller skate all night long. Like, it seems pretty cool. I wouldn't go personally because, yeah, it's just not
like Soul Train. It's like Soul Train.
There's no such thing. No, hold on. There is no such thing as being too old. Right? I saw a video of this 82-year-old powerlifter. All right, so there is no such thing as being too old. I don't want to hear that. Okay, I don't want to hear that. You can do anything you want to. Age is just nothing but a number. It's a state of mind. So if you're 82, if an 82-year-old can do some powerlifting, but she probably can lift. She can probably lift Max because Max is, just skin and bone really. So if an 82-year-old can do it, you can do it too. There's no excuse.
No, absolutely. Well, I'm going to see the Chemical Brothers on Friday, and I'll probably be 20 in my head. But yeah, I'll still probably end up waking up in the morning with my legs being fucked. I'll be having spew all over the side of me, and I'll probably be regretting everything I've had the night before.
The Hickney goon are fucking cutting shapes and doing the Melbourne Shuffle to Chemical Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Hold on, what's the Melbourne Shuffle?
Well, munching on a disco biscuit.
Melbourne Shuffle is this stupid fucking dance that got invented in Melbourne in the 90s, and it's like
I'm gonna look this up.
A way of rave dancing without lifting your feet off the ground.
Okay, hold on.
That's what I do.
Just YouTube Melbourne Shuffle, and you'll just
shoot. It's one of the first things that came up.
All sorts
fucking
of shit. If you Google
Melbourne Shuffle.
This is how bad the football has been. we've spent the first 5 minutes of the podcast talking about going to raves, black people skiing.
And you haven't even introduced me either.
I know. We've just
Rude.
accepted you as part of the furniture now, mate.
Oh,
You're in. After the conversation you walked into at the start before we started recording, you were like, "What have I walked into here? Welcome to the
Arsebros.
Arsebros."
Fairly mild, to be honest.
Now,
Thank you, brother Max.
this is. Hold on. This is just shuffling.
Don't start googling shuffle because you'll start getting all sorts of shit on there.
No. I'm on
I'm sure you
YouTube.
will.
This is just shuffling, Max. There's nothing new
It's a
about
Melbourne
this.
shuffle. We invented it.
Man. See, here I thought I was going to walk into some new stuff, but this is just shuffling.
I told you it was from the 90s.
What was that group called? That Everyday I'm Shuffling group. What were they called again?
Every day I'm shuffling.
That one. What were they called again?
Oh, God.
Hold on. Let me look this up.
FMF. LMFAO.
That's the ones. See?
There
That's the
you
ones.
go.
Yeah, they were the ones like that made shuffling popular, but this is just shuffling, Max. There's nothing new about this shit. But here we spent the first 5 minutes just talking about random shit. I'm pretty sure for the first time listeners of this thing, right, they're probably just gonna turn this off and go, "Oh, we're gonna, come to an Arsenal podcast and listen to Arsenal stuff." Well, you are, but this is the kind of stuff we talk about when we don't press record. So I don't know. You just have to deal with it, I guess. But welcome. Welcome back to Hot Topics with the one and only Marmite himself. I'm the host of this shit. And I've got... You probably heard them. You probably recognize the voice of one. We've got Melbourne Max in the house. What's going on, bruv?
Good, mate. Good. I'm playing a golf tournament today, so I'm Skyping off work again. And I'm podcasting about this shit show that is Arsenal. Once again.
Well, you can do that. You can do that. You know what I mean? You're the boss at the end of the day. I don't know why you work so much sometimes, but there you go. You're a good lad. Now, my next guest actually is a first timer on this shit. A first timer on this platform. And we're taking him away from his comfort zone of being the host. And the host of a very good podcast, I might add. One of my favorite podcasts of the year. If you haven't listened to it, I'm plugging it right now. From Dial Square to Where. Awesome podcast with Nigel Winterburn. I was listening to it on my night shift because those are the type of things I like to listen to. A podcast with positivity and a lot of great stories from the past. Awesome listen. So we've got Andrew in the house, aka the Hinkley Gooner. Welcome to Arsebros. Welcome to the most degenerate platform in Arsenal podcasting. How you doing, mate?
Good, thanks. Good, thank you, man. I'm really pleased to be here, and you're a fantastic liar, because you know how I know you're lying? Because if you said that you've been listening to my show, it hasn't been very positive lately, but yeah, thank you. Thanks for that. And,
hey, man.
Like I said, very happy
it was
to
a
be
good podcast, and I enjoyed it. I took the positivity out of it. All right.
You did, and I am positive about a few things, but there's not a lot to be that positive about at the moment, is there?
Well,
really? But
I'm not
sure
gonna
we'll get
lie.
onto that.
I'm not gonna lie. The Nigel Winterburn one was the first one I listened to, and I'm kind of glad I did because it lifted my spirits a little bit. Because we are in a shower of shit at the minute. Now, to those that were listening to the first episode actually of this Hot Topics, thank you very much for listening. So you know exactly what we do here. So Andrew, let me give you a little bit of a reminder of what it is we do. We take one topic and we strip it bare. But unlike in a strip club, you can actually touch this one, right? You can touch it, fondle with it, do whatever you want to do with it, put a hole in the pile, whatever. So yeah, let's get into it. So the topic we're going to talk about tonight is this squad and whether it's a top 4 squad or not.
It was at this point that we realised that Mandy's audio had in fact dropped out, even though we could still hear him, it wasn't recording. And so to give the next little piece a bit of context until I can slice it up and get it back happening, Mandy asked us what our most controversial comment about Arsenal was and what or who our favourite player of the decade was. So hopefully this all kind of makes sense. If not, well, what the fuck do you want me to do about it? Deal with it. Cheers, guys. Okay, my controversial opinion is Aubameyang is not the player that the Arsenal fan base believe him to be. Well, I've kind of been spending a bit of time looking at Arsenal's squad over the last week, right? And kind of been looking at previous squads and previous players. And when I thought that we were last genuinely competitive, I mean genuinely competitive. And the last time I think that we had a team that either should have won or could have won was our 2008 squad. Now, for those of you who don't go back that far or who have soft memories, that was the year when Eduardo got fucked up, right? So I've been going back through and I've been looking at squads and looking at players. Now, to bring it around to Aubameyang and why, and that this is not me saying that Aubameyang isn't a good player, right? That's not what I'm saying. It is me saying that I don't think he's the player that the Arsenal fan base think he is. And by that, what I mean is I don't think that he is at the same level as our other truly great strikers. And to an extent, I think that there are other strikers in the Premier League who offer more than what Aubameyang offers. And my thing with Aubameyang, I kind of covered a little bit on last week's show, is that I think he's very much an icing player. I think he's very much dusting on top of something that works better. And I don't know whether or not we're, with this current Arsenal squad, with this current setup, if we're ever going to be able to see the absolute best out of him. But my kind of unpopular comment is that overall, I think a different striker with different attributes, more biased towards build-up and more biased towards link-up, that a different player with a different skill set right now could be more beneficial to Arsenal.
All right. So, Andrew, it's your turn, man. Give me your most controversial comment about any Arsenal player or squad in the last decade and your player of the decade, please.
Well, my controversial comment is that I do think that the squad that we've got at the moment is still good enough to get third place in the Premier League under a decent coach. And the most valuable player in our squad at the moment, and this is probably the controversial thing, is probably Gabriel Martinelli. Because of his incredible high ceiling and potential. And the vultures are going to be circling around him all the time. And we need to wrap that guy in cotton wool. And I've heard several comments that we will be able to sell the guy in 2 or 3 seasons' time to Real Madrid or Barcelona for 80, 100 million quid. And I said, no, I don't want to. I want to keep that guy so he can help us get to where we want to go. And yeah, for me, I think at the moment I would be happy to sell anyone apart from Martinelli. So that's probably my controversial comment. The player of the last decade, in my opinion, is probably Alexis Sanchez. Because he was the guy that got me out my seat when he was at his peak.
Say it again. Say it again. Oh, finally. When he
was at his peak, he got me off my seat and made me really excited to watch the Arsenal.
Thank you, Max. I heard you groaning there. Have you got a rebuttal for the man?
He was truly world class, and He changed games on his own. He dragged us through a shit period with a shit squad and took us to places that we wouldn't have got without him. And yeah, I loved watching the guy.
See, Max, you got the floor, bro.
I had issues with Alexis Sanchez from the start. And the Alexis Sanchez comment buys straight into what I said earlier on about the Aubameyang comment. And I just think that sometimes these players, their overall contributions to the teams, Alexis Sanchez more so. Alexis Sanchez much more so. But such was his fucking arrogance, such was his desire to do everything by himself and fucking cut inside onto the right foot and cut inside onto the right foot and then fucking cut inside onto the right foot, that by the time he'd finished the season, everyone knew what the cunt was going to fucking do. And a lot used to break down with him. And despite him being, getting us up off our seats throughout that period of time, I found him incredibly fucking frustrating because for a period of time, everything fucking had to go through Alexis and he demanded it because he was such a fucking cunt. So, no, Alexis can fuck off. Fucking Alexis.
Why do you watch football? Why do you watch football, Max?
I watch football for... So my fondest moments to do with Arsenal are always our team goals. Like if someone asks me what gets me most erect, like fully erect, like that an inch longer than it should be erect, and it's like the Rositzky tiki-taka goal, the Jack Wilshere tiki-taka goal. There's an Henry goal from a few years ago. I've forgotten who it was against, but it's like a bit of tiki-taka around the box. It finds Ashley Cole standing right on the penalty box, who like one touches it back to Henry, and Henry just blasts it into the bottom corner. Like the way I've always seen Arsenal, and the thing that's always made me an Arsenal fan has always been, I don't know, maybe I'm still too Wengerian, but that idea of it being a collective. And there are players who are they're just not a collective. And Alexis Sanchez just was never a collective for me. He was a guy who thought that he was better than the team, better than the squad, better than the players around him. And for me, really got found out a year and a half in for everything that he was going to do. Defenders knew what he was going to do. He was a one-dimensional player whose one dimension just happened to be absolutely world-class.
Well, Ian Robin and Riyad Mahrez are making a good living, or have made a good living out of it. I know Ian Robin is retired now, but he carried on his whole career doing the same thing. And so did Riyad Mahrez.
Yep.
Say it again.
You need players with arrogance to have those moments to get you off your seat. I mean, look at Ronaldo. Do you think he's a team player?
I think he has better better link-up play.
He plays for himself.
Yeah, I honestly
Max,
play,
no.
Max, I mean,
okay,
Mesut Ozil stopped playing for Arsenal as soon as Alexis Sanchez left.
Man, Mesut Ozil stopped playing for Arsenal the minute he signed for Arsenal. Let's get that correct. Okay, that's the most overrated player, period. All right, I believe anyway in the last decade. But Max, I don't think we got your player of the decade. So who is your player of the decade?
Matthew Flamini.
You know who I want to say, Manny. You know the first name that's on the list when we talk about players of the decade. But I'm not gonna go there because that's said from a place of love, right? That most of our listeners will understand, right? So, I don't even know whether I need to verbalize it. Everyone knows my love for Theo Walcott, right? But I'm not gonna go there. Player of the decade. Fuck, there haven't been very many, have there? Honestly,
Man,
like if I'm looking,
on.
if
we've had a couple.
We've had a couple of like really good players. Like, I don't know. Come back to me, because I'm in struggle town.
Jesus Christ, you suck at this, bruv. So okay, Here's my controversial comment. All right, here's my controversial comment. Alexis Sanchez is an Arsenal legend. That's my controversial comment.
Oh.
And let me back that up. Let me back it up, Max. Let me back it up. You look at his contribution to the team in the period that he came in, right? There is no other player in the Emirates era that had as big of impact as Alexis Sanchez. People lord over Aaron Ramsey for what he did in the FA Cup. 2 winners. You cannot gloss over that. But Sanchez also scored 2 FA Cup goals. Not FA Cup final goals. Not winners, but goals. The go-to in big games, he stood out. Goals, assists. I understand what you're saying, Max, about his arrogance and things like that. But every top level player has that level of arrogance. You only got to go back and see the comments that Thiago Silva made about Messi in their recent, friendly game between Argentina and Brazil. Every top player has that level of arrogance and I'm better than everyone. Ronaldo has it. Henry had it for a period, right? I'm pretty sure the Agueros have it. I'm pretty sure the Suarez have it. You're not a top player if you haven't got that level of arrogance about you. And he had that. I understand he was a cunt. I understand he did a lot, he was a petulant child at times, but we cannot gloss over his contribution to Arsenal Football Club for the 3.5 years that he was in. And had we had a better manager, a better team, we definitely would have won at least 1 Premier League title while he was at his pump. That's what I believe. And my player of the decade.
I just fucking hate the cunt.
It's the same person again.
Can I not fucking hate the cunt?
Man, Max, you can hate him, but you cannot deny his contribution to us. He had a bigger impact on us than Robin Van Persie, bro. Like, let's be real. Let's be real. In the time that he was here, no player had a bigger impact on us. It's just that simple. Had we had the players that we needed, right, we would have won a league title with the dude. You cannot deny that, mate. You can't. I know you hate him, right? But you cannot deny that, bruv. You can't.
Can I say something? Can you imagine if he hadn't left and say Mesut Ozil left instead of him? Can you imagine him on the left now with Aubameyang in the middle and Pepe on the right? And if we had a decent coach,
no,
could
because fucking Emery would be playing him at, Emery would be playing him at fucking left back. This
is what I mean. If we had a decent coach. It's just if we still had him in the squad and we changed our manager now, he hasn't turned into a shit player. I mean, look, he's playing well in Italy now as well. He still would do a good job for us on the left, which we're desperately short of now.
100%.
But, do you know what? The tiki-taka stuff was lovely when it worked, but how often did that work? It worked probably once in 100 times, if that. And what you need sometimes is someone to grab your team by the scruff of the neck and smash one in from 25, 30 yards. And he literally did that on so many occasions. And that
many occasions.
I mean, it bores you to tears when you try and pass the team to death, and don't take a shot around the box. I wanted someone to actually come in and actually take a shot and be confident enough to take a shot and just score long-range goals, because I find that much more exciting on loads of occasions.
Max, you're not going to win this one, bro. Give us your player of the decade, man, so we can get into this hot topic, bro. Quit dancing around it.
Well, I mean, look, I've just gone through literally every player since 2010. And I tell you what, there hasn't been a lot. There has not been a lot for us to fucking get up about. If I'm looking at players who I absolutely loved, Bacare Sagna, I think, was one of the biggest losses to this club. I almost think at the time that Sagna left, it was one of the biggest losses to Arsenal that was never really thought about that much. It was never really kind of conversed that much. I mean, Cesc was still at the club in 2010, so Cesc requires a shout. I can't.
Pick one, man. Hurry up.
Fuck it. Aaron Ramsey. FA Cup goals delivered. There you go. Not my favourite player, but if you want to talk about the player who's had maybe the most impact on the club as far as getting us out of the dark ages, and you would argue that Ramsey, despite not being fantastic for large periods of time, his contributions within the FA Cups, a bit like you guys were saying about Sanchez, his popping up in big games, Aaron Ramsey, but also Theo Walcott for just being my boy.
Go sit down, Max. You
just want me to leave?
Just danced around it,
the
and then just go sit down.
Does it not make a point that I struggled so hard for play? You give me I'll give you 10 names. You give me say I'm not even talking Invincibles. Remove all the Invincibles. You even give me names out of the kind of 06, 07, 08, 09 squads, and I can give you like 5 or 10 players. We stopped buying world-class players until Alexis Sanchez and Ozil, and I don't like either of them. Since then, the only world-class player that we bought, for all intents and purposes, is Aubameyang. Maybe Lacazette just starts kind of scratching into that category. But we don't buy world-class players anymore because we haven't been a top team for a decade. We haven't been there for a decade. We've been an FA Cup team. That's why it's hard for me to pick players. That's why it's hard for me to pick top players. Who the fuck am I going to choose, bruv? So if I don't choose Alexis...
I didn't ask you to pick top players.
Ramsey, the fuck
Max,
do I choose?
I didn't ask you to pick top players. I asked you to pick your favourite player of the last decade.
Thomas Rosicky.
Do you pay attention?
I thought it was the best player of the decade. The number one player of the fucking decade.
Go sit down.
I'm going on quiet. You talk to fucking...
Go sit down.
Fucking piece of shit.
Go sit down. You fucked this up. You fucked this up. You're such a prick. Oh my god. Fucking hell. Anyway. See, this is what I have to deal with, Andrew. I have to deal with this idiot who doesn't fucking pay attention. This is what happens when you don't listen.
I really was worried that you were going to go for Bakary Sagna at one point. I mean, God. He's a great player and underrated. I do like Bakary Sagna, but player of the decade, favourite player of the decade. I was just about to nod off. I think I would have preferred Matthew Flamini.
Jesus
I love me some Flim Flam. I love me some Matthew.
Why the fuck did you come back? Why did you come back? Right. Oh, now you're listening.
I felt I had to defend myself.
Oh, now you're listening. Right. So you listened, you wouldn't have danced around the damn issue for so long. But anyway, let's go into the topic. All right. And I think we can all agree that Max is a fucking idiot who needs to clean his ears and pay more attention when we're asking him questions. All right. So, like I mentioned on the top of this, right? The topic that we're going to try to strip bare is whether this current Arsenal squad is a top 4 squad or not. Now, how this all came about, funnily enough, you cast your minds back to the Newcastle game. And I was watching it, and I looked at the squad, the starting 11, and the bench. And I thought about the players that were missing on that day. And I said to myself, you know what? We've got the third best squad in the league at the moment. Now let me refresh your memories of what that squad was on the day. So it was Leno, Maitland-Niles, Chambers, Socrates, Monreal, Xhaka, Guendouzi, Willock, Mkhitaryan, Nelson, and Aubameyang. Our subs were Martinez, David Luiz, Torreira, Ceballos, Pepe, Martinelli, and Lacazette. Now at the time we were missing Holding, Bellerin, Tierney, Ozil wasn't in the squad, Kolasinac wasn't in the squad. And I thought to myself, when all of these guys become fit, we actually have a decent squad here. So now I'm going to ask you guys, and we're going to break it down position by position. Let's start from the strikers and we're going to go backwards because for whatever reason people like starting with the goalkeepers. But I want to start with our strikers. Our 2 top strikers. Are these guys top 4 quality or not?
100%.
Who wants to pick up, man? Let's go.
100% yes.
Why?
I think that in Lacazette you have a connective striker, a striker who wants to come deep, who wants to fight for the ball, who wants to who is happy to get
Andrew,
on the
what
ball.
the hell are you doing over there? Hold on, Max. Andrew, what the hell are you doing?
Sorry, I'm looking at my my notes. Do beg your pardon.
Russell. Look, in Lacazette, I think that you have a build-up player. I think in the Premiership, we've seen over the last decade that the pure striker, the pure striking role, as much as it's important, it's not important in every single game. And I mean, if we're talking about that pure strike role, I guess we're talking about that Defoe type striker, or we're talking about, modern day, that Jamie Vardy type striker. Those guys who sit at the head of the box and what they do is finish. And I think Lacazette provides us with something that is more actually of a modern striker, not a throwback striker. I mean, even if you look at the game against Southampton, Lacazette was man of the match for me. And that was based on his ability to hold the ball, his ability to be strong, his ability to bump off defenders, and when he's on, his ability to turn and shoot. And I'm a big Lacazette fan. I haven't been this season. I think he's been terribly off form, even when he's come back in. He looks like a little bit of a whinging bitch sometimes, but at the moment, I'm sort of down with him. And then as I have said on so many podcasts, in my opinion, it is Lacazette or Aubameyang. Not both. Not unless you're going out against a team you can just bully. And to bully a team, you need to hold possession, and Arsenal don't hold possession. But let's not talk about the team. That was one of the rules we spoke about tonight, even though there are no rules. We don't want to talk about the coach or about the system. If we're just talking purely about the players,
about the players, bruv.
I don't think that there is anything at Chelsea that is better than what we have. I don't think there's anything at Man U that is better than what we have. I don't think there's anything at Leicester that is better than what we have. So on that logic alone, our strikers are top 4 quality.
Okay. Andrew, you got a rebuttal for the man? Do you agree with Max that our 2 strikers, when on form, are top 4 quality?
And you know what? Throw Martinelli in there as well.
I was just going to say, that's
can you?
You're completely omitting my favourite player, who deserves to start on the left. Unfortunately, our manager hasn't got the balls to only play one of Lacazette or Aubameyang. But I'm not Michael Cox. I'm not going to go into all the analysis of all the runs they do left and right. Lacazette and Aubameyang should be in the box, only being one of them at a time, and they score goals. I mean, there's not many players in the league that would have scored that goal in the last minute against Spurs of the first half, when he just thought, fuck this, and he went straight through 2 rows of players and bashed one in with his weaker foot into the top corner of the net. That's a good attitude. That's great finishing. And both Lacazette and Aubameyang are great finishers, and they need to be in the box. And any other team would be happy to have either one of them. And they are unrivaled. Well, if you think about Manchester United, Chelsea, Leicester. Leicester have got one great striker. There's no doubt Jamie Vardy is a quality striker. He seems to be getting better with age. But that's all they've got. Next down in line is Iheanacho, and he ain't scored a goal in the last decade, probably. So we're very strong up front. And if you can include Pepe, and I don't want to go through any kind of critique of Pepe at the moment. I don't think you can really give any of our squad, to be perfectly honest, at the moment. You can't critique any of them this season with the way things are going. Well, that's debatable. I can do that another day.
Everything has to be put with a caveat. Everything has to be put with a caveat when you're talking about players in the squad right now.
I think so. I really do. But we're not. This podcast isn't about that. But anyway, if you can count Martinelli, you count Lacazette, you count Aubameyang, it's up there with, on form, it's up there with Liverpool's front 3, for my opinion.
It's the only part of our squad, in fact, that would get anywhere near the top 2, which we're not talking about. Oh no, I think if you put Lacazette and Aubameyang into the functional midfield that Liverpool have, where they transition a ball from front to back with powerful ball runners, you've got two, like, mate, they're gonna score goals. They're going to score goals. It's as simple as that.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But our front three matches live.
It's comparable. It's comparable. And I tell you what, I don't. I mean, this is going to sound crazy to a lot of your listeners. But I don't rate Salah as highly as a lot of people do. He had an amazing season, but his amazing season was on a par with a good Aubameyang season. And Aubameyang has done it for over far many more years than he has. Regards to number of 100%. Goals. And number of goals, scoring a goal is the most valuable commodity in football. That's what it's all about.
Of course.
Aubameyang is head and shoulders above most people across Europe for numbers. He's not slowing down either. So he could do the same for another 2 or 3 seasons easy, in my opinion. So we've got a very valuable player in Aubameyang.
We do, and I think on the top of this, we mentioned about age. I mean, look at Robert Lewandowski at the minute. The guy's got 27 goals, and we're in November, right? Yeah. And he's 31, 32, something like that. So age really is forget about that. If you're a striker and if you know how to put the ball in the back of the net, you don't lose that sort of instinct. And I think Aubameyang is one of those guys, when he loses his pace, because that is going to come, his movement and his quickness of thought is going to mean that he's still scoring 20 goals even when he's 33, 34 years old, simply because he knows how to get there. Lacazette, the way he plays the game, high energy, pressing, he's intense in his character. He's intense in even his celebrations. The one you mentioned about Tottenham. Just look at his celebration. Just stood there, very intense. He's not afraid to show his emotions. Sometimes negatively so. Sometimes I think he's a bit petulant. You know what I mean? He's got a chip on his shoulder. You can see it, and he plays like that. But you wouldn't want to take that away from his character, because I think that's what drives him. And I agree with you guys that we've got 2 top strikers. If they had what they needed in behind them, we wouldn't even be talking about getting into the top 4. We would be already in it. So I agree with you guys on that one. Now let's go. Oh, God. This part of the team, the midfield. When all of our midfielders are fit, put Ozil in that one as well, because he's a midfielder. Can you truly say that midfield is top 4 quality? Max, I'm coming to you first, bruv.
Well, can I ask a question for clarification, please, Mr. Adjudicator?
Yes, you can, bruv.
Do we include Pepe as a member of the midfield?
If we're going to put Martinelli in a group of strikers, then we put Pepe in there as well.
Yeah, so
we take Pepe away
is
from the
part
midfield.
of that. So we're going to say that Pepe is part of that strike force. Let's call it a forward 3.
That quartet.
Yeah, okay. So removing him, and therefore even just solidifying the argument that we just made, Lacazette, Aubameyang, Pepe, and Martinelli, I would argue that that's pushing the top 2 for ability. So, I think that finalises that once we put Pepe in there. And all these motherfuckers giving Pepe shit. All these motherfuckers saying that Pepe needs to go home and what a waste of money and all this stuff. You have not seen him in a functional role. And if you go and look at what he was doing in France, yes, it's a step-down league, but if you go and look at what he was doing in France, that boy had the arrogance of Mbappe. I mean, he was getting on the ball and he was driving. And when you take young men are so built on confidence that once you strip that confidence, you're not getting a true indicator of what that guy's skill is. So that's my thing there. Going on to our fucking dysfunctional bullshit midfield, I would argue that every midfield in the top 6, and I'm even going to go down into Wolves midfields and places like that, are better than what we currently have. So I'm not the biggest Torreira fan, right? I think that he is a very good...
Why? Oh, go into this one, man. Rip into this one, because we've had discussions about this offline, right?
So I think that
Please,
Torreira is a very good player. I don't think he's necessarily really, really suited to the Premiership, the style of player that he wants to be. And that's not me saying that he's not good. or that I didn't enjoy him last season in parts, or his running around. And that's not to say that I'm not taking into account the fact that he's being mismanaged and used in the wrong system, and all of these things that are the conversation pieces around him. When I say that I don't love Torreira, it means that I would actually prefer a different style of player in that position. If you were to offer me Torreira and you were to offer me, say, Nzonzi when we bought Torreira, my preference would be to go with an Nzonzi. My preference would be to go with a Fernandinho style player, a little bit longer, a little bit rangier, a little bit more box-to-box. I have issues with some of the South American petulance, the rolling around on the floor, bits and pieces of that. So I don't think that Torreira is this world-class player that we bought.
Yeah, but hold on, Max. Hold on, Max. Hold on a sec, bruv. Because you talk about you prefer an Nzonzi over a Torreira. So let me ask you this. A player that is in the same sort of stature as Torreira, would you take a Kante or an Nzonzi?
That's different. Because Kante is the best at what
No, it's not. It's not different. They play the same type of position. They're the same sort of stature. They're the same height, same size. So would you take a Kante or an Nzonzi?
On skill set alone, Kante.
Oh, so you can't just say that you would take an Nzonzi over Torreira because it seems like you're picking on his stature.
Torreira isn't as good as Kante. So it's a moot point.
But Max, it seems to me that you're picking on Torreira just because of his stature.
I'm not picking on Torreira because of his stature alone. I'm just talking about like power players and lung busting players. And anyway, semantics. I am not an anti-Torreira fan. The preface of what I was saying was I'm also not a Torreira fanboy. So let's just put that to one side. Guendouzi has a huge ceiling. A huge ceiling. That boy should never have played 50% of the games that he's played for Arsenal.
Agreed.
In the last 2 seasons.
Agreed.
Right? He never should have been. He's 19. He's very lightweight. He has the acceleration of a fucking jumbo jet without wheels. He gets fucking run past. He wants to grab control of games and be aggressive. He gets himself into bad positions. He vacates midfield. And all of this stuff is acceptable for a 19-year-old. And the simple fact of the matter is, why the fuck were Arsenal and why the fuck were Emery, when they bought in these players, was their game plan like, oh, you know what? This fucking 19-year-old's going to general our midfield in a dual pivot. It never could have been the plan. And now I think we run the risk of burning him out. I think we've already burned him out a bit. I think we run the risk of not allowing him to develop at the pace which a 19-year-old needs to be able to develop. And I know there's 2 arguments to that side of the coin, and it's you either play them and they develop through playing minutes, or you feed them in. But like, who's there teaching him? Who's there showing him? What, fucking Granit Xhaka? Like Granit Xhaka's fucking teaching him how to fucking behave? Like there's not only in our midfield is there a lack of physicality. Not only in our midfield is there a lack of athleticism, not only in our midfield is there a lack of seemingly positional awareness, coach or not coach, but there's no leadership. And I mean, any form of leadership, it's all about having guys who are senior in their role, who have been there before, showing the younger guys, this is what we do. This is how we do this. The chips are down, this is how we do this. I'll show you when to go, I'll show you when to stay. And that's the problem with our midfield. We haven't had a midfield leader forever. And I would argue that, like, someone posed the question the other day, and I'll stop waffling and let Andrew have a go in a minute. But someone posed the question the other day, would you rather Ndidi, Maddison and Tielemans? I was like, yes.
100%. Right,
yes.
right
like,
now?
Immediate, like, shut the fuck up.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. 100%. Now, Andrew, I've got 2 questions for you, mate. All right. One, is our midfield top 4 quality? And if not, what are we missing? What are some of the ingredients that we're missing for this midfield to be top 4 quality?
I don't understand why you think, Max, that we've got no athleticism in the midfield at the moment. We have. And the problem is with Matteo Guendouzi, he shouldn't have stepped foot on the pitch last season at all. He should be making a bit part appearance this season. But the problem is with him is that I love the guy, and he's got so much ability, but he is picking up so many bad habits that he's going to find it harder and harder and harder to get rid of in his career. And we're ruining that kid. We're ruining him. He's doing whatever the fuck he wants on that pitch.
Preach.
He's got no guidance whatsoever. Now, he is... You don't need to be Linford Christie to play in the centre of the midfield. You look at Michael Carrick. Was he a good midfielder? You know, Matteo Guendouzi, if he's coached properly, could be someone of that sort of ilk in the future. Slowly play, literally controlling the game. He's got the intelligence to control the game, but he's not. He's doing whatever the fuck he wants. Now, Torreira, I like Torreira. I think he could be a really, really good player. He's shown it for his country. He's shown it in Italy. But for us, he's doing what the fuck he wants. And he's been... Somehow, our current coach thinks he's the new Eden Hazard. So he's playing him up front. I mean, I don't know. We're not going to go into all that stuff. But the problem with Torreira is I'm sick of all his whinging. Every time you turn around, he wants to leave. Well, just leave then. Just get rid of him.
I said that to Mandy the other day.
Just go.
Yep.
I don't give a fuck, mate. If I keep hearing from your agent that you want to go, just fuck off. You know, that's the problem with Torreira, and he's just crying. When he's not moaning about wanting to go back to Italy, he's crying. So that's the problem I've got with Torreira. His mentality, his personality. Is that up to scratch? I don't know.
I think you just hit the nail on the head for me, Andrew.
Right on the head.
You just put into words maybe why I don't like him, and maybe why when I'm saying I want a bigger or a more physical, dominant player, it's maybe I mean that in the sense of personality as much as I mean it in the sense of physique. You know, that if you're going to hold down that role in a team, you need...
Max, not every player, right, big, small, or whatever, has the mentality to play in their positions. So it doesn't matter, you could be a Torreira or you could be an Nzonzi. If you haven't got the mentality, it doesn't matter what you do. And that's something that we're going to come into a bit more later on, because there's one player that stands out to mind for me when it comes to mentality. But it doesn't matter whether you're big, small, or whatever. If you haven't got it upstairs, you're not going to go anywhere. And I agree when Andrew says that he doesn't think that Torreira has it, because I agree with that. There was past last season. Undoubtedly, Torreira was one of our best players in the first half of the season. But when things got tough, when he started to get found out a little bit, when he started to run out of steam, he bailed mentally. He bailed. And when you bail mentally, physically, he was gone. And he hasn't got back to that. I agree with you guys. He's bitching. He's moaning. He's never settled in, right, with the English life. He can't. Not everyone makes it in the Premier League. Not a lot of South American players, period, make it in the Premier League. Because it takes them out of their comfort zone. You know what I mean? You have to learn the new language. It's cold. It's physical. You know what I mean? You got to go to places where they kick you 90% of the time. But those South American players who make it, a lot of them go on to be great. Aguero, Suarez, Gilberto Silva. There's not a lot of them, but when they do, sky's the limit. Banjo, I'm going to come back to you again.
You look at Martinelli, talking about South American mentality. He's got the mentality because he wants to be the best player in the world. And he could well be.
And going back to the midfield. I think Guendouzi has the
what are we lacking, mate?
As well. You know, Guendouzi's not lacking in his
Guendouzi needs to be reined in, mate.
He's gone too far. He's gone too far down that track.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want his mentality to come back a bit. I want him to humble himself a bit now.
100%.
Exactly.
Watford, away to Watford, right, is a perfect example of he's still a baby. Right, that you know, when he's coming off the pitch and you know, seeing the 2-1 and doing that with his hands and signaling to the crowd and whatnot. That game, I really just wanted to grab him by the neck and squeeze, because you saw that he's still a child. But there is nobody in that squad that can tell him anything, especially the most experienced players, because they're making more mistakes than he does. The only players that you would think that would come around him and go, hey, you need to settle down, are Lacazette and Aubameyang. But are they doing it, or they're just the fun, the fun uncle or the fun parents? Do you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I think our midfield sucks.
Well,
Andrew, what do you think of Ceballos? That's the one that we haven't spoken about.
Well, I think that Ceballos would be absolutely perfect for the role that our head coach wants Xhaka to play.
Yes.
Now, he could play in the hole, in between the defence and midfield, perfectly, I think, because he's very good press-resistant player. And if he had someone alongside him, which we haven't got, this is the player we're missing. And for any player that we absolutely desperately need, it's not the central defenders that everyone wants, which we do need, but our most pressing need is someone like, I would say, Thomas Partey from Atletico Madrid, maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Someone with stature, with a very good strong mentality, well disciplined, and who could break out himself when the need arose, but also break up play and carry the ball. Someone's very confident on the ball, like him. But do you know who we could possibly have in our squad that could do that? Unfortunately, I'm thinking it's going to take probably about another 2 seasons. Willock. If Willock get down the gym, bulked up a bit, and matured as a player, under the correct coach, he has all the ability to be a player like Thomas Partey. He's too thin at the moment. He's too raw. But I think in a couple of years' time, he could be an absolutely fantastic player. Not as good as obviously as a Vieira, but a very similar type player to Vieira. But he would need to be trained properly, and he'd need to bulk up a bit. Yeah. But I think he's got that ability to do that. So I've got a lot of faith in him.
Season. Yeah,
but Ceballos, I think he could get. If he's disciplined, the problem with Ceballos is another one that's not going to get out of this habit.
Ceballos is another one who goes where he wants, when he wants.
Well, exactly. He follows the ball.
Well,
he recognises that himself.
Is this not systemic then? Are we not seeing that if we're actually tossing up what the systemic issue with Arsenal's midfield is, it's that there's no cohesive structure or pattern play. There's no plan A, no plan B, no plan C. And when I talk about that stuff, I mean, okay. I mean, you talk about the fucking crater that was left in midfield against Southampton, right? The ginormous hole that was left in midfield against Southampton, while Guendouzi and Torreira are standing on the edge of the 6-yard box. Like, where is the fucking positional awareness now? Where's one staying, one's going? We're in a transitional period now. We both need to sit. Where's the communication between the two of them? I'm looking at this midfield, and I'm looking at... Look, Xhaka, I don't even want to fucking talk about Xhaka, right? Xhaka's gone. I've never been a huge fan of his. I've always understood that there are certain skill sets that he provides that other people don't. But he's got no legs. He's fucking Lieutenant Dan trying to catch fish on a fucking shrimp boat in a fucking sling, right? He's fucked. So I'm just going to remove him, right? Torreira we spoke about.
In a sling, I like that bit.
Guendouzi we fucking spoke about. You ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan. Ceballos, I don't know what Ceballos is. Right? I've seen Ceballos.
Ceballos is a good number 8.
He's a number 8.
But he's not in the hole unless you put the right player next to him. So Ceballos for me is a dual pivot, which means if you're going to have Ceballos in a dual pivot, Ceballos is the player who I would most like to be getting the ball off the back for. Right? That makes sense to me. You're press resistant. You're technical. Go get the ball. Go get the ball and turn. Move. Spread it out. But then he's always going to want to break. And he's a player who wants to get close to other players. And he wants to give and go with players. And we saw... Which game was it? He had quite the good game with Ozil. Was it Leicester? Or was it the game before that?
It was at home.
Might have been the game before that where Ceballos had... It was his... Wolves. It was his first decent
Wolves, it was
game
Wolves.
since Burnley. And that was because
Since
he got
Burnley, yeah.
close to Ozil and he had a give and go and they were playing around. So, I have doubts with Ceballos' positional awareness of whether... Do you know what? Like, if I'm just going to break it down and just... The issue with Arsenal's midfield is that it's individuals. There are no actual teams. There are no actual partnerships, and midfields are built on partnerships. And if you're asking me, I would probably look at... I'd say Chelsea's midfield has better partnerships in it than what ours does. I think Leicester's midfield certainly has better partnerships than what ours does. And really, for me, it's a fucking toss-up between our midfield and Man U's. So if our front three, or our front four of Laka, Martinelli, Pepe, and Aubameyang are top two pushing top three, I would say our midfield is definitely outside of the top four.
Listen, not even that, right? And then there's one key thing that you guys have missed with Ceballos, right? His range of passing, in order to play that number 8 role, the role that Emery wants to implement, right? He hasn't got a long range pass on him. Ceballos thrives when there's a player that's 10 yards away from him.
Yeah, pop.
If you watch the Southampton game, and I don't want to bring this game up, but I have to. At one point, Guendouzi picks up the ball, and he's running into midfield. There are 6 Southampton players around him. 6. The closest player to Guendouzi in that passage of play was Ozil, and he was closer to the penalty box than he was to Guendouzi. And the only reason why he came into shot is because the camera panned towards him. So our midfield doesn't have an understanding of distances. Our midfield doesn't have defined roles. Our midfield do not know what they're doing, and it doesn't help that there's not a leader in there to tell them where to go. Andrew, come back to me, mate.
The whole simple thing about all of this is the fact that we have no coach. Our coach is fucking retarded. And this is the whole problem for everything. You said the big thing we're missing about Ceballos is the fact that he can't do the long range passing. He shouldn't need to, mate. Because he should have players around him within 10 yards. That's the problem. We shouldn't have massive gaps. And if we do want to do a long ranging pass, well, let David Luiz do it then. We shouldn't have these massive gaps. No, listen. We're not being coached properly. And this is why we're a bunch of individuals. And it's all down to the coach, because when you look through our squad, player by player by player, then the problem is the fact that we're not being coached to actually play football. So when you actually think about the Leicester midfield, you wouldn't have said that, what you just said, last December, when Puyol was in charge, or whatever his name is, Claude Puel. They were dog shit, that team then. You wouldn't say, if this squad we've got now, none of our players would get in that team then. It's down to the coach.
Well,
that coach has brought that team on in leaps and bounds. He's brought that team on in leaps and bounds, and they're confident and they're playing to a set system. And they don't have a different midfield every week. They don't have a different back four every week. They settled. And we haven't ever had that under this manager. And we've all these players are new. And the only coach they've known at Arsenal is this dumb fuck we've got now. So you cannot, that's why you can't judge the quality of our squad and how it plays at the moment, because they haven't got a clue how to play football, and they're worried about doing the wrong thing, because when they're on the pitch, they probably forget, what system are we playing at the moment? When you look at Sheffield United, would you think any of those players would get into our team? No, but they're above us in the league, and you know why? Even though they're a bunch of League One players or Championship players, they could actually close their eyes and play that football match because they know exactly where their teammates are without even looking. So that's the difference, mate. If we had Chris Wilder as a manager, we would know exactly what we're doing. We'd be playing teams off the park. Now, we are a couple of players short. I'm not going to say that, obviously. We do need to still strengthen the squad. But no one can tell me that our players aren't good enough to reach the top four when you look at Sheffield United playing other teams off the park like they did with us and make us look like a bunch of dumb fucks, like our manager. So that's the problem.
I'm sorry. I love that, right? I love that rant because Like I said on this platform, there are no rules, and clearly you needed to have that rant, so I'm gonna fucking allow it. All right, Max, I know you wanted to jump in, but I'm gonna block you because you talk too fucking much. All right. The defense. I'm just gonna come out and say this one. Hell no, this defense is not top 4 quality. This defense is not even top 15 quality. I would argue 100% we do not have one good defender. Pure defender. Back there, we don't. We don't. Kieran Tierney has a high ceiling. I love what I've seen of him. His delivery is amazing. And his defending, for me, the way he defended Adama Traore, there's a player there. Because he recognized immediately that, whoa, if I try to get close to this guy, he's just going to blow past me. So he understood that and stepped off Traore, covered his spaces appropriately, and defended him really well. So there's a player in there. But everybody else, Bellerin, Socrates, Chambers,
Fucking
Holding,
Socrates.
Luis, Mustafi, we have some terrible defenders. Forget tactics, forget all of that. As players, they are terrible. Now we talk about leaders, right? We say that our midfield doesn't have leaders. When you look at our defense and you're looking at maybe Socrates and Luis, you would say to yourself, 2 experienced players. Luis has played for Brazil. He's won Champions Leagues. He's won the league. He's gone to PSG. He's played with great players. Okay. Experienced leader. Socrates, you can say the same thing. Both of them are absolute donkeys. This defense, definitely not a top 4 quality, and we overrate a lot of these players. Like Holding, like Chambers to an extent. We overrate them. Because as defenders, they're still liable to make mistakes. They still do not know how to defend situations properly. That could be down to coaching. Whether you want to put it down to coaching, you can put it down to coaching. But they're terrible defenders first and foremost. Anybody want to dispute that? Feel free, man. Jump on. Let me hear you.
I will. I think that they could be made to look a hell of a lot better than they are by being protected properly in a proper system with a midfield set up in front of them that doesn't allow players to just run at them at will and take pot shots of 20 to 30 shots every single fucking match. And David Luiz, he's not the best defender in the world, no. But he's never played in it. He's never played in a team as dysfunctional as this in his life. Ever.
He must be thinking, what have I done?
I could put up a good argument. To say you could stick Chambers and Holding at the back of playing in central defence for Liverpool or Man City, and they would look world class because they're being protected. And the good thing about Tierney is I listen to when I look at managers or players or whatever, the best way of getting good feedback and really knowing how good they are is by looking at what the fans say about them, that go and watch them week in, week out. And that's what I did about Unai Emery. You don't fucking listen to the media, don't listen to the press, don't listen to people that played with or worked with, because they will just tell you what you want to hear. If you go and listen to the fans' feedback, that's why I knew that we got a dog shit manager as soon as we hired him, because all the fans hate him wherever he's been. Now, if you look at Kieran Tierney, just look at the way that all the Celtic fans reacted when they knew that we were going to be buying him. They went fucking apeshit. And you listen to some Celtic podcasts, they absolutely love him, and they will tell you how good he is at defending. So I'm happy with Kieran Tierney. He's going to be a very, very good player for us for the next decade, fingers crossed. And he will be coached properly as well. But I'm still going to argue that you can make bang average defenders look good as long as they're protected and don't encourage players to run up through. It's like Moses parted the fucking Red Sea and allows everyone just to run straight through at our defenders. Any defender in the world, even Virgil van Dijk, will panic when they've got players running at them and taking 25, 30 shots a match at them. Anyone.
I'm gonna go back a little bit on this one. You may be able to make average defenders look good, right, for a time, but sooner rather than later, that mask is going to slip up because they keep on making errors. They cannot stay away from making those errors. Now, Max, like me, you are not a fucking fan of this defense. So tell me, man, is this defense top 4 quality, bro?
Just don't get me started on Socrates, by the way. I fucking hate that.
Fucking Socrates. Fucking Socrates is a fucking hack. Right? Except
useless.
For the fact that
fucking useless.
Except for the fact that he looks like he's got a cock like a fucking tree trunk. Right? There's nothing good about
Will
it.
you stop talking about that man's dick? What's wrong with you and this guy's dick, bruv? What is with you and Socrates' dick? You know, you need to go to that dressing room. You might need to. Hold on, Mike. You might need to put some lotion on your knees before your face, because it seems to me that you and Socrates, you got an obsession with that Greek dick. So you might want to go to the Arsenal changing rooms and see whether he'd hook you up with something. Because stop mentioning this dick. Talk about his footballing.
It's not his cock anyway. He's got a kebab shoved down his shorts.
Look, I think
talk about his football in a bit. Talk about this defense, man.
I think that in a way we've kind of lost our way a little bit in the last two sectors, because again, the reason why this is so hard to do is because it comes down to coaching, or a lot of it comes down to coaching. And I think in a way what we have to do, even backing up back onto the midfield as well, is not look at these guys as in, are they being coached properly? To look at these guys as in, as singular players, are they good enough? Are they good enough for top 4? Are they good enough compared to other teams? You know, and even to a degree, looking at that midfield, no. I would take Kante over them. I'd take Jorginho over them. You know, I'd take Ndidi over them. And coming back to the defence I think is the most glaring place where I look at it and I say, I think that this is just abundances of averageness. I mean, across the board. I don't think that Socrates, even in a really well-coached midfield, and let me put this caveat, because I agree with Andrew on this part, right? Can an average defender be serviceable in a system that suits them? Yes. Rob Huth, Wes Morgan, Leicester. There's your simple answer then. Wes Morgan and Rob Huth do not get into any top 4 team fucking anywhere on skill or ability, but in a system for Leicester, they were exceptional. So can you coach average players? Yes, you can absolutely coach average players. But that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're talking about whether or not, when coached effectively, theoretically by the new manager who's coming in, is this squad good enough? The front three,
no.
Yes. The front three, yes, they're good enough to be coached properly and be able to get goals out of those guys. The midfield, it's a toss of a coin for me. The back is 100% a no. Luiz is a terrible defender.
I don't even feel like
he's always been a terrible defender. I don't think that you can make him a world-class defender. Socrates is a fucking shit defender. But what we do with Socrates is he's like Action Man. And because he does these... Do you know what? He's actually not too dissimilar from Mustafi. Except Mustafi can pass a fucking ball. Right? Socrates loves a hero challenge. I said that, Andrew. I said to Toby after the last game. I said to him, I would rather Mustafi there. At least I would get a ball passed from front to back. Because Socrates is as much of a liability. He's as much of a hero. And he may not go onto his ass as much as what Mustafi does, but he loves a fucking hero challenge as well. You know how you get hero challenges? You know why? The greatest defenders never really make hero challenges. You know why? Because they're in the right fucking position, so they don't have to. They might make a couple per year where they do something really brave or something really exceptional. Right? But because he's always fucking out of position, because he's slow, because he gets turned, because he's a poor passer of the ball, I think Socrates is a big reason why we bombed the passing out from the back. You know, he just couldn't fucking do it.
See,
Rob
Max,
Holding
this is tough because
really,
again we go
really
because again Max, hold on. Max, hold on, Max. Again, when you say about the passing out from the back and Socrates and this and that, Socrates should have never been placed in that position in the first place. And this goes back to coaching because we can't get away from it. A person who knows his players and the strengths and weaknesses of their players would understand that Socrates is not the player you go to when you need to pass out from the back. So again, we go back to coaching, mate. We can't escape it when we're talking about this squad. We can't.
And this is the hardest thing.
Can't.
We're trying to look at these players as individuals. We're trying to work out whether these guys are top 4 in their own right. I mean, Chelsea are no better off. I mean, fucking, Kurt Zuma. Mate, he's not a fucking top. He's not a fucking top 4 defender either. You go to Man U, they're struggling.
He's not. But guess what? He's not a top 4 defender, but guess what? Even though he's in a better team at the minute, he's still making stupid errors, right? He's still getting caught under the ball. He's still making stupid challenges, right? So again, it goes back to can shit defenders be coached to look good? Sure, for a time, but that shit that they have in them is gonna come out. It's gonna ooze out because they can't hide it.
No, but listen. The question was: is this squad good enough to get into the top 4? Listen, the person that bought Socrates should be fucking fired because he's useless. Absolutely useless.
He was.
No, he was. No. There's someone that went out there, scouted him, and said, yes, we should buy it. It wasn't Gazidis that said that actually went out and scouted him. Anyway, well, yeah, that's right. I'll take that back then. Thank God then. Listen,
that makes it even worse.
Anyway,
the person who scouted him did get fired.
Good. I'll take
That's
that
how
back.
shit he is.
But anyway, Socrates shouldn't be anywhere near the fucking squad. Anyway, he's useless. But just as an example, right? If you stuck Chambers and Holding as a centre of our defence, like I said earlier, they used to play together for the England under-21s. They know each other. They're friends. They could work out a good enough partnership with enough protection in the rest of the team, because it's not just down to the defenders to defend. Let's remember that. It's the whole team that defends. So if we had a good enough system, I still think we could, with the players that we've got, we could get into the top 4. Now, I thought that was the question. Now, if we're going to talk about are they good enough to go forward, then no, they're not. But they could be coached well enough. Yes, they could be coached well enough to actually be spatially aware enough to know when to go, when to part. They could be coached well enough to get us into the top 4. 100%. No, they're not good enough to take us to the next level to where we want to go. They will need replacing. But at the moment, as it stands, I definitely think they could be coached well enough to do what they need to do to get us there this season.
You
not
really
with Socrates. All of it.
But he's a dead, but they're part of the squad. So Max, I'm gonna come to you, right? And then I've got 2 final questions because I fucking need to head off because I've got work, right? So my first question is this, Max, because we can't get away from, because clearly we cannot get away from coaching when it comes to these players, right? Because we've seen them from a coaching aspect. I think we haven't seen these players enough away from Arsenal to fully determine whether these guys are top 4 quality or not. So we can't escape that coaching aspect when it comes to these guys, right? That's clear from the discussion that we've had here. So I got to ask you this, Max. Looking at the defense, right? Are some of these players uncoachable?
No. No. Every player is coachable. They're professional footballers. They're coachable. They can be put into a system. I don't think our issue with our defenders is that they've gone rogue. It's not like, the fears for Luiz was that, when he was younger, he would go racing up into the midfield and vacate his space. And, if anything, the David Luiz that we've got is a scared old man who's standing 5 yards out from his box, literally standing on top of Leno's toes, trying not to get done by people running past him. I don't know whether we've done that to him, because, like Andrew said, the quantity of shots and the penalties that he gave away early in the year, again, which can be argued that those players are just slicing through midfield and then they're straight onto the back four. So are they uncoachable? No. I'd say the only guy in that team who actually seems to be very, very hard to coach, I know he's coming back from injury, is Hector Bellerin. Because he's always been the same player. He's always been a player who vacates right back. He's always been a player who's not a fantastic defender. He's been a guy who, when Arsenal are on the front foot and when Arsenal are playing a high possession-based game, he's proven to be a cog in that wheel that can be very, very beneficial. He's an inside right player. He doesn't get chalk on his boots. He's not a Tierney player who likes to get wide and whip crosses in. In fact, Bellerin's general crossing is pretty shit most of the time. He's more of a passing right back. Of all of the players in that back four, the guy who I feel is probably the two guys who are probably the least coachable. I don't think Socrates is particularly coachable at this stage in his career. I think he's not coachable just based on physical attributes. He is what he is. But I do have my fears about Hector. I do have my fears about whether or not he's overrated because of a feeling that we have towards him being, inverted commas, one of our own.
He's not good enough going forward. When I say going forward, I mean future. It's for the future. He will need replacing. He's a good player, but he's not very good. He is very overrated. But he's good enough for now to get us to improve, and I think he can be improved by a good coach. But he's not a player that we need to be thinking about to keep long term if we want to really improve as a club.
If someone came in with big money for him, Andrew, let's just say someone came in the summer and was like, I'll take him off your hands for, let's call it £55 million. The greater fan base would say no. They'd say no. I'd say yes.
You need to be ruthless.
100%.
You need to. I'd take it. I'd snap the hand off.
100%.
Personally.
Likewise. Now, my final question, right? And I'm going to give you guys an example in this final question. And it's all about mentality. And we touched on it a little bit with Torreira, all right? And the question is around mentality. Like, we talk about the top level players, right? Your Ronaldos, your Messis, and you can even in the Premier League at the moment, you can put Raheem Sterling up there, right? In the top 10, I would say. So we talk about mentality, and the mentality of I'm going to make it. I'm going to be in this team. I'm going to make this position my own, and nobody is going to take that away from me. Now, the first part of this question is there any player within this squad that has that sort of mentality? The second part of this question is, can that mentality be coached into these players? Now, why I came up with this question is I look at somebody like Maitland-Niles. Maitland-Niles came out earlier this season and he said, I'm not a defender, right? And I look at a player like Maitland-Niles and I think to myself, you have not got the mentality to be a top footballer and to make it at a club like Arsenal. Because you should have used the example of Lauren before you, who came into the squad and was a right midfielder. But he understood and he was told that you're only going to make it at Arsenal if you transform yourself into a right back. And he came out in an interview and said it himself. I knew that this was my only opportunity to make it at Arsenal, and I knuckled down in training and I made sure I learnt that position because I wanted to make it. And I look at somebody like Maitland-Niles and I ask him, can I tell myself, you do not have that mentality. So Max, I'm going to come to you first. How many players, if any, within this squad has that mentality to become a top player?
2 is the answer. 2. And there's a reason why. So Matteo Guendouzi and Callum Chambers. And I actually have a really good reason why they have the mentality to become top players. Everyone in the Arsenal squad, every single player in that Arsenal squad have either come from top clubs, top systems, or through the Arsenal youth system. Coddled throughout their entire careers. And this is the thing with an apex club. And I mean, as much as we're struggling with Arsenal at the moment, it's still an apex club. Right? And the problem with apex clubs and apex players and youth system players is that these guys have been, since they were 13, led to the high road, told that they were always going to make it. So when it comes time to actually knuckle down and be adaptable and go in and fight and know that you're going to get a role, you're going to get a run, and you're going to get your position, and you've got to hold that position. There's two guys who I think have shown it this season on that element, and two guys who I think that given time could actually be, maybe not Chambers world class, but a top player. And the reason is that Guendouzi has come from second division France, not made it in the PSG youth academy, and had to take a step down. I'll throw Martinelli in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They've had to go down to the lower leagues where they've had to scrap for it and they've had to fight, and they've had fucking 36-year-old nobodies double fucking legging them because it's their last chance. Right? And now they've come up and they've got their chance. They seem to have grabbed it. Callum Chambers had all but lost his way. He'd been farmed off to Borough. He'd been farmed off to Fulham. He understands what it is to be in a relegation battle. He understands what it is to fight because he has fought it. He's done it. He's gone down into a team and he's fought for relegation. He's been relegated and he has tasted what it is not to be at the top level. I think Guendouzi stepping down from PSG has tasted what it is not to be at the top level. Martinelli has never had fucking anything. Right? He's poor family. Manny, you and I were talking about this. We were talking about like Sadio Mane in his interviews, talking about like kicking around a ball made of dirt, you know, buying his family houses. You know, that concept for me, that idea that these guys have tasted defeat and they're not going back, they're never going back, they only look forward. That's why I think those guys have the ability to be top level players. Maybe not world-class players, but top level professionals. And that's why those guys have gone and got positions and held on to them. You look at Chambers since he came back in the team. I think I'm man of the match Chambers 3 out of 4 games at right back.
Mm-hmm.
At right back. Yeah. I mean, Montero stuck his fucking cock so far inside Chambers at right back a couple of years ago that Chambers is still coughing up fucking jizz. Right? And Chambers overcame that and he went back to fucking right back. And he's playing that well, carrying Montero on his back because Montero's still fucking inside him. That's why you haven't seen Montero play. He's under Chambers' shirt with his cock up his ass. Still. And Chambers has fucking come back. That's why those two players have fought for their positions. And that's why people like Ainsley Maitland-Niles couldn't fight for their positions. Because I followed Maitland-Niles very closely throughout the under-21s. And he was never anything short of a sure thing at the top level. I mean, to the point where we were talking about him replacing Ramsey. We were talking about, you know, athleticism in midfield and ability on the ball. He has all of that. He doesn't have mentality. And when he was put into a position where he had the choice between be an Arsenal player and play at right back or be mediocre and slip back into the background, he took be mediocre.
Because he knows he's not good enough, unfortunately.
I think so.
The person you missed out of that as well is the guy next to Chambers, hopefully, Rob Holding. He's the same.
Another guy.
He came from Bolton.
Yep.
From Bolton Wanderers. He knows how lucky he is as well. And
so are you seeing my logic? You're seeing my logic about these guys who have come from nothing and they're not going back?
Yeah, I mean, 100%.
Eddie Nketiah, I think, has got it as
100%.
well.
Mm-hmm.
But he came through the academy, but I think he's different. I really, really think he's different as well. And do you know what also gives me confidence in that? That Ian Wright thinks he's different. He can see a lot of himself in him. And that gives me confidence because I was listening to the Stadia podcast today which was brilliant, where they interviewed Ian Wright about the art of finishing, and it was really good. I recommend listen to it. And he's taken Eddie Nketiah under his wing, and he's it's nothing to do with the club. He's doing it off his own back, and just talking to him on a daily basis, keeping him motivated. He can see a lot of himself in him, and I can as well, with the way he moves in the box, the way he finishes. He's no airs or graces to Eddie Nketiah. But I think he could be an elite goal scorer just on the 6-yard box, just tap-ins, because he's going to be in the right place at the right time. So I think he's definitely one worth sort of really looking after and giving a chance next season. I just wish he could get more starts with Leeds. But I think he's got it as well, the hunger, the mentality. But you're probably right. I can't think of anyone else. And the ones that you've mentioned, I would actually like to keep all of those players. The rest, they can just, if they don't want to be there, they don't want to be up for the fight, they can just go. We'll take the offers for them.
I think maybe Tierney as well.
Yes,
maybe
yes.
That was going to mention him.
Good shout.
I was going to mention him. Yeah,
I can't believe I didn't think of him either. But yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Maybe we see him. Maybe that's because we see Tierney as almost not a finished product, but almost so rusted on to be able to do it that we kind of I didn't think about him in that development phase, which is crazy because he's a developing player. We haven't even probably seen 70% of his ability yet.
Even that, yeah.
But again, coming up through the Irish leagues.
He reminds me of Nigel Winterburn a lot of the way he plays. And I talked to Nigel Winterburn on the show about, Kieran Tierney, and he's an old school player. He gets stuck in. He works hard. He doesn't try and be flash. He just defends well, and he goes forward and attacks well. And even to the extent that he tucks his shirt in, that's proper 80s. That is, he does though, doesn't he? He doesn't.
Yeah.
When he got the call to come down and sign for Arsenal, he was at the park playing football with his mates. No doubt at all, drinking a bit of booze, drinking a bit of White Lightning. But he's old school, and that's what I love about him.
I wonder if the crux of this podcast, I wonder if what we've actually uncovered here, kind of without intent, is the answer to the answer to the question is actually to pose another question. Is Arsenal's squad top 4? Yeah. Does it have the mentality? I don't think so. I think that there is a mentality gap in this squad that the next coach, that's going to be the thing that they have to uncover. That's going to be the thing that they have to get moving to get this squad to top 4, because there's not enough winners in this team. And I wonder if you had the same players in the same shit system with the same shit coach, but there were more players with winning mentalities, with working mentalities, that maybe we wouldn't be as bad as we are. Maybe we'd be an average team, but we'd be an average team hovering around fifth.
I'll just say one thing about that. And it does exist in our squad, because without that mentality, on 2 occasions this season, we wouldn't have come back against Spurs, and we wouldn't have won that game against Villa. And that was nothing to do with the coach. That was the players.
No, that's not enough.
That was the players saying, fuck this. And they took it upon themselves to actually go ahead and either get a point or win those games. And even Callum Chambers gave an answer saying that the coach was screaming at him to stop getting forward, wouldn't he? And he just ignored him. He ignored him.
No, that's not enough.
No.
Not enough.
I'm not saying it is, man.
Do you know
but
why?
It was a spark. It was there somewhere. It wasn't enough.
It may have been.
But it's somewhere in
spark.
there. That's what I'm saying.
Listen, what I'm like, mentality for me, right, has you can break it off into different segments, right? Mentality is when you go back to games last season against Brighton, when top 4 is on the line and we're 1-0 up, but we can't shut it down. Against Palace, when we go out with this arrogant attitude and we don't execute, You know what I mean? So mentality is not just about, they've come from nothing and this and that. It's about, okay, we're not playing well here, but we need just enough. We can do just enough to get over the line. Because when you get to April and May, it is not about performances. Performances, that goes out the window. It's all about getting the job done, right? And I don't believe that within this squad, there is that mentality to go out and understand that, you know what, we may not win this game 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, but let's just get the job done.
100%.
There's not enough for that.
No.
There's not enough for that. So what we have uncovered, Max, you are right, that maybe this squad is top 4 quality, but they don't believe that they are top 4 quality.
Yeah.
They don't have that belief and that mentality that, we can go out here and we can win this game 1-0, we can win this game 2-0, or we can nick that last minute winner to get us over the line. They don't have that. When you look at it, you think that there's David Luiz, there's World Cup winners, there's Aubameyang, there's league winners. You would think that there's enough winners in there, but they haven't got that mentality. It hasn't been drilled into them that they are good, that they can go out there and make it. So I guess I've answered the second part of my question. They haven't been coached that sort of mentality, because I believe you can be coached that. I believe when you have a coach that believes in you that much, that believes in your ability, that can show you when you've been good, that can show you when you've been back, that when you've been bad, that can work with you. We don't have that. I don't think these guys have it. So it doesn't matter whether they've won things. Now they're in a position where that belief, if they had it before, has been coached out of them. Mm-hmm. And they don't believe in their own abilities either.
100%.
So, oh man. Gents, we've come to the end of this shit because I need to get to work. I've already messaged my line manager while I was at this. I told him I'm late. There's things at home that I need to deal with. So, whatever. It is what it is. I'm leaving the job at the end of the week anyway, so I don't really care. But Andrew, man, thank you for coming on.
Been a pleasure.
I'm hoping to have you on again at some time. I'm hoping to come and desecrate your space sooner rather than later. Where can people find you, man? Plug your socials, man. Where can people find you?
Twitter is @From Dial Square, and you can search From Dial Square to Where on YouTube, and you can search From Dial Square to Where for the audio version of all my podcasts on the usual platforms everywhere. So yeah, please do, and I'd love to get you guys on the show pretty soon.
I think we are. We're on with you on the 4th or the 5th of December, I think.
That's it, and I hope you are too as well, Manny. If you can make the time.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I can make the time, man.
That'd be fantastic.
Just give me a shout. Give me a shout.
I don't know how to get hold of you, Manny. You're like the invisible man. You are on when you search the socials.
Oh no, I am on socials, man. I will send you my social when we're done here because I don't want most people to find me.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And then Twitter is a cesspit of negativity and stupidity, so I avoid it like the plague.
Well, you need
don't
to,
you know? Don't you know,
I'm
Andrew?
sure you're
Don't you know that Manny is a figment of my imagination and it's just me putting on a black person's accent?
Well, I think he's got to get to his voiceover job to have his silky smooth skills. Yeah, and put those to good use, man. You know, those voiceover
I'm trying. I'm trying, man. I know there's a market for it, so I need to find it, man. You never know. I think I'm not using my talents, but hey, we'll see. Maybe you'll see me in a vegetation or doing a movie. I don't know. No, I don't know. Who knows, man?
Adverts.
Who knows?
Adverts for panty liners and stuff like that. You should, you know.
Oh, that works, man. Wherever I'm getting paid, I'm not complaining. You know what I mean? Max? Well, Max?
Cheers, mate.
It's been a pleasure, bruv.
Yeah, I'll speak to
good
you
luck
soon.
in your
golf tournament.
Your golf thingy. You know what I mean? Hey, man, good luck with that. Gents, it's been a pleasure. Hey, if you have any questions for us, if you have any topics you would like us to discuss, send us a message, man. Max, what's the social media thing for this?
Twitter and Facebook for us is @Arsebros Rent.
See, that's how you know how professional I am. I don't even know our own damn socials, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Until next time, gents, thank you very much, man.
It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, mate.
Take care. Bye-bye.